Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today in support of H.R. 1927, which is on the floor this afternoon, the African American Civil Rights Network Act. This is to honor the sad yet heroic struggle for civil rights in America. A struggle for those who participated in the civil rights movement, a struggle for people that were in fact soldiers in a war for justice and democracy. We appropriately and regularly honor the soldiers who wore uniforms and went to Europe and Asia to defend our country. And we appropriately and properly give them benefits that they deserve for what they did to protect democracy and justice. But what we forget is those citizens in America who had to fight their own government and their own country for those same rights of justice and democracy. Enslaved for over 250 years and then treated in a netherworld of segregation for 100 years, and then slowly creeping in after Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 and the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of the 60s and to this day. Those who fought for civil rights deserve as soldiers for justice and democracy, and this bill will honor their work with the civil rights network in our country. They use protests to gain public attention and eventually to spur judicial and legislative action. It goes all the way back to W.E.B. Du Bois and others who fought when they weren't so popular and on television. H.R. 1927 would establish a civil rights network to commemorate and honor the history of the civil rights movement. And I would encourage that the proposed sites include the Memphis Heritage Trail, which has applied for funding as part of that historical network. It was in Memphis, unfortunately, in April of 1968, where Dr. Martin Luther King was slain. Dr. King gave his last speech in Memphis the night before the Mason Temple, the I Have Been to the Mountaintop speech. And it was in Memphis where he started his last march about a week earlier, marching from the historic Claiborne Temple with the AFS-CME workers, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, who were garbage workers not recognized as a union and not recognized as men. I am a man. And Dr. King came to Memphis as part of his fight for justice and freedom. The Claiborne Temple has risen from the ashes and is being renewed in Memphis as a place for events, worship, concerts, and protest. And the Civil Rights Museum has risen at the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was slain, the National Civil Rights Museum, which is outstanding, and next year will commemorate the 50th anniversary of the assassination. Our own John Lewis will be there. H.R. 1927 would help to memorialize these events and these places across the United States and others. From North Carolina, where the sit-in started, and Nashville, to the Voting Rights March in Selma, the atrocities in Birmingham, and Rosa Parks and the bus boycott in Montgomery. Julian Bond, our own John Lewis, Rosa Parks, Viola Liuzzo, Ida B. Wells, Schwerner Chaney and Goodman, Joseph Lowry, Roy Wilkins, and others will be recognized. I look forward to voting for H.R. 1927 and seeing that it more appropriately represents and remembers heroes, fighters for justice, democracy, and freedom, not recognized as such, but in fact such. I yield back the balance of my time.